So Phuthi,
Yeah.
let's start off with something that is very interesting at the moment.
Yes.
About Tilly Norwood. Now, to some people, Tilly Norwood is just a name.
Yeah.
And to other people, Tilly Norwood is a AI character
Yeah.
that has her own Instagram.
Yeah.
She's got her own YouTube. She has her very own profile.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is she's been considered for roles.
Yeah.
And she's been considered to literally act in movies and shows. And she's totally AI. And when you look through her Instagram and you look through her YouTube, she comes across as incredibly human. And my initial thoughts is, well, you know, it's very interesting. But what is your reaction when you see something like this?
Yeah. You know, my reaction, Liam, is both wonder and worry. Wonder because I think it's incredible what technology can do. The fact that an experience like that feels so real, it really is unbelievable. But worry because one can begin to question the level of our ability to tell real authenticity, what's real and what's not. And worry further because I think as leaders, it's important, whether we're in the arts or in business or whatever industry it is, that we can tell what is truth. Because at the end of the day, it is about the lived experience.
And authenticity.
Absolutely.
You know, it's becoming more important now than ever.
Yes.
To live a very authentic life. I think that, and although I haven't been on this planet for a very long time, that what you very quickly pick up in someone,
Yeah.
whether they're authentic or not. And the idea that we now have these incredible, you know, AI characters that are around. And if you'd asked me 3 years ago what a dystopian and just extremely scary world would be in terms of, you know, AI innovation and what's happening, I would never have been able to say, well, Phuthi, by the way, we're going to have an AI character and you're not going to know if she's human or not. It leads us to a very interesting topic, which is, you know, when you have all of these machines and you have all of this perfectionism that machines create, what is it that humans find a little bit more authentic or perfect?
Yeah. You know, when I think about it, my view is that perfection doesn't move us as humans. Truth does.
Wow.
And so from that perspective, when you see someone go through an experience and actually being able to recover from that experience, all the experiences that they have, that is what informs the way in which we look at approaching life. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think it's about perfection because machines mimic what we do. And so
they learn from us.
Absolutely. And so we need to ensure that we continue to have that real, authentic experience.
And I'm so glad,
the time.
And I'm so glad you say that.
Yeah.
Because I just this morning had a conversation with a friend of mine who is currently at university.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, how is your studies going, and you know, how are you doing at university? And she said, well, Liam, it's extremely difficult. And she said, as much as I enjoy it, it's very difficult. And I said, well, you know, the most important thing of going to university, I suppose, is not only to sort of acquire skills and knowledge, but it's to also show that you've been through a few years in you know, going through hardship, going through difficult times, and that brings us back to something machines can't do. Machines can't show that they've been through hardship, and that there's that underlying character of tenacity and resilience that shows through. And so it's not about jobs being replaced. It's something deeper than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about work, it's about worth. It's about ensuring that as we have these machines there supporting us, that they're supporting us to be more efficient humans, to be able to think more creatively around the most key issues. And so from that perspective, it plays an important role in our lives.
So in other words, it leads us into a very productive but empty space. And my question is, how do leaders balance that practically?
Yeah.
How would a leader balance your very machine side of things with authenticity?
Yeah. I think what's important is for us to be able to ask ourselves, what is this actually solving? What problem are we solving for? Because if we as people are not coming up with technology that is adding to the dignity of people, to the worth of people, then what is it really about? And so with all of our solutions that we come up with from a technology perspective, it needs to be something that is additional, that is adding to dignity of people, to the lives of people.
And you said something so interesting literally just before we walked into this room, which was, that technology really does act as that catalyst. Tell me a little bit more, or tell everyone that's listening a little bit more about how, technology acts as a catalyst for, certain areas in business and leadership. How do leaders keep that balance practically?
It starts with intent. Every time we come up with a new technology, we need to ask ourselves, what problem is this solving? We need to be looking at issues that are affecting people at all their different experiences and being able to see to what extent this technology is able to solve those issues that are being faced by people.
Yeah, and if you look at this world we're in where you have, extreme AI and human and, artificial intelligence and machinery on the one hand, and you have this balance of human authenticity on the other hand. How do leaders balance that?
I think what's important is that we just continue to remain authentic and creative and really not lose that, because at the end of the day, what the machines will produce is what we feed into them.
Yeah.
And so if we are going to be continuously putting in average knowledge into the machines, average knowledge will be produced at a faster speed.
Yeah.
But if we are putting high quality information into the machines, high quality information will be produced at a faster speed.
Yeah, and what's very interesting is that I think a lot of people, whether you're at home, whether you're using AI in a very professional capacity, that the way you talk to this technology is what's become so interesting. And when you talk to ChatGPT or you talk to any of the many models out there, you realize that the quality of the question you ask it depends on the quality of the answer that you're going to get out of it. And my next question would be, when you look at technology as this catalyst, it may be a catalyst for many things, and in my opinion, it's a catalyst for a lot of good. What is your take on how technology and specifically AI can help springboard a lot of what we do, whether it be in a company, in a professional capacity? When you hear of AI and you hear of tech as serving as this catalyst, how do you see it changing what we do in business?
I think it can change what we do in business fundamentally. Because when you think about it, to the extent that we're able to ensure that our agents, our models are able to have the most information as they possibly can, so making sure that they have all the data, all that context, it's really important, because then they can be able to generate the answers that we need as humans. And so from that perspective, this will create the space for us to be able, as humans, to think more creatively and really taking a view on whether this is ethical or not, and really taking a human side to it. Whereas we have our machine colleagues who can be able to think more efficiently and deal with the issues that, from a data perspective, were just used to be so laborious and can now be done by machines. And so,
Exactly. And the mundane tasks that us as humans shouldn't be doing.
No.
And I suppose what that allows for is for the light to be shed on us and what our creativity and what we as humans were actually meant to do, which is come up with new thoughts and reason things. And I think that feeds us back into our conversation about authenticity and balancing what's really meaningful to us as humans and what people actually enjoy more. And we see that more and more where if you're on social media, or if you're in a very big business room and you're listening to someone talk, you can immediately see whether they're an authentic person, or it's someone that has the wrong intent. And that leads us back into intent and authenticity.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like the voices that you get. Remember, in the early days, you'd get this call and you could immediately tell that it was a machine. It wasn't a person,
Exactly.
But, the more authentic we can get the information in our machines to be, the better it is for us as people, the better they can be as our assistants.
And I mean, of course, we can see from a fundamental AI model point of view, specifically when you work with these models, that you realize very quickly that the models are really incredible at reasoning, and they're incredible at thinking longer through certain tasks. And it's just this very new AI and this very new era that we sort of all have been thrown into very quickly over the past 2-3 years. And what that's shown us is that there is this machine that can think in ways that we can. The only thing that it can't do is it can't go through hardship. And it can't go through the very difficult and persevering and through the times that require tenacity.
The lived experience.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And my question to you would be, you look at these models and you look at this technology. The one thing it doesn't have is the authenticity in coming across as something that's gone through hardship. When I mention the word hardship and I mention the word tenacity and what humans bring very uniquely to the table, how do you bring that into decisions you make when you talk about maybe judgments of character, or when you need to actually invest in something, or when you actually need to go into a partnership, or when you may be sitting across the table with someone? The words authenticity, tenacity, resilience, what's literally the very first thing that comes to mind?
I think what comes to mind is the fact that in the world that we are in today, with the assistance of machines, you have the ability to actually focus on the most important elements of the discussion. Whereas in the past, we used to focus on our experience as professionals and really relate to that. We now have the ability, or even go onto the internet and kind of research and find out some information. With an AI assistant, you can have the most efficient information readily available for you. Obviously, on the back of you having inputted, the best information on there. But
and the correct question.
Absolutely. But I think having these AI assistants it really is just, it's excellent for us. It ensures that we're able to come to the best decisions. And, many times as leaders, we are continuously making decisions. But with these AI assistants, you're able to have access to factual information that can really drive your decisions a lot more accurately.
And quicker.
Than in the past. In fact, I would love to see more judges and prosecutors using AI assistants so that they have access to all the factual information. Obviously, it's also on the back of all the information having been inputted.
And using the correct models
Absolutely.
that have gone through the correct governance processes. And
100%. Accuracy is something that is so important for us as humans in all the decisions that we make. And so I think the ability for us to have AI assistants who can be able to provide us with that support is just critical.
100%. And I mean, when I go back and I think about the quality of decisions that I think people made pre-GPT, and we'll actually call it pre-GPT and post-GPT. Pre-GPT meaning anywhere before the 30th of November 2022.
Right.
That would be pre-GPT, and then post-GPT being after November 2022. And when we look at the new sort of era we've gone into, we know that knowledge is in abundance. We know that people can now construct, very serious documents a lot quicker. People have all of this, and we'll go into a little bit of like a philosophical conversation now. But when we move into understanding that everything is now in abundance. Data is in abundance. Being able to make a quality decision very quickly is in abundance. And you talk about all of this information that's in abundance. There is also a little bit of a red flag that comes up where you say, well, everything's in abundance and there's all of this data. Where do we as humans actually find balance? When you have access to literally everything at your fingertips, where do we find balance? And my question to you is, as a leader, in your organization, how do you, and let me maybe give a little bit of context on this.
Okay.
I'm the most AI enthusiastic person next to you on the planet.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that I'm very I'm very optimistic about AI, as are you. Yeah. And I would like to have a conversation about leading a large organization, how you manage AI, and the balance of AI and real human creativity in the workplace.
I think it really is just so important. I think as leaders, what is important for us is to ensure that people continue to see that lived experiences are valued, but at the same time, that efficiency is also valued. And so from that perspective, you can then be able to form really great partnerships between, if you have, your technology colleagues or machine colleagues and human colleagues as well. Yes. But, to do so in ensuring that we can make the right and best decisions in everything that we do. I mean, what I love about being in this world is the fact that we know that with technology, there's so much that we are doing for sustainability as well. Yes. And so, the impact of that is that with the decisions that we make, we're not only thinking about what's best for the people that are here now, but for the people that are still to come. And so, from a generational perspective, making the best decisions. And so, having these colleagues who can help us, machines, being able to make the best decisions for us on the back of the information that we've inputted is something that is critical for us.
And what's amazing about what you said, and the first thing that came to my mind is you have a far more zoomed out perspective than I think anyone I ever talked to is you really focused on your very long-term goals, but you also know how to balance it with your short-term goals. And through many conversations with you, what I understand is that you have this amazing ability to look at the immediate things that we need of AI in the workplace, of balance, of sustainability, of compliance. But you also have the ability to say, well, maybe what we do today is not only for today, and we're not only doing it for today, we're doing it for the next 10 years. And what we might see in the next 10, 20, and 30 years. And I think that's an incredible quality that I've seen very, very, very few people have, which is the ability to zoom all the way in and zoom all the way out.
Absolutely.
And that's something that comes across as very important.
No, thank you very much, Liam. But, one of the things that inspires me is when I look, for instance, at our organization, we have what we call the process way, which speaks to our culture, how we engage as colleagues and all of that. And, this is something that's so important because in as much as we're a technology business, we are also very much focused on how people are interacting, how they're engaging. Are we engaging in a respectful, meaningful manner with each other? Are we focused on entrepreneurship, that being the very core of our business? But, these are elements that are so important from a human perspective, but we can input them into our machine colleagues to ensure that we are getting the best responses from them as we push the way forward.
And I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when you say that is, human-centric. And the other word that comes to mind, apart from being very human-centric, is having a company culture that is centered around, as you mentioned, efficiency. And your answer earlier was like, every time I think about it, gets just more and more in depth and detail, because when you talk about an organization using AI and trying to find balance, maybe it's not about trying to find that balance, because we know anyone that tries to find balance tries so hard to find balance that they actually forget about what's important. And maybe it's about not looking at balance and looking at efficiency.
Yeah.
And from what I'm understanding is, when you look at the process way and your very human-centric approach and cultivating this culture of very very human-centric interactions, and when you take that into account, what is your take on building a culture in an organization for this new era we're in, which is I'm going to call it the AI era. in this AI era, what is your take on cultivating a company culture that is very optimistic, but at the same time understands that there is a certain importance around understanding the compliance and the security of using these technologies?
Yeah. I think in this era, it's actually even more important that we are engaged as people in our organizations. And so when you look at how people are being managed, the culture that is being developed in the organization, that is critical. We live in an era where it's very easy for people to not communicate, to just communicate just online, but not as, on a human level.
Yeah.
And when you have the right culture in an organization, it forces people to actually physically engage with each other, as in talk to each other.
Yes, which is very, I think, scarce in today. I think a lot of people talk more to an AI assistant than they actually do to humans nowadays, which is definitely something that we need to be careful of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, I'm very proud of the fact that at Process, we have such a great culture. We engage together. We have incredible workspaces. People, we all have lunch. And, despite the fact that, on paper, people can work in the office 3 times a week. People are actually in the office a lot more because they enjoy being in the office. They enjoy the people
being
they
with
work
other
with.
People and,
absolutely. And that engagement is so important, because that's where you get creativity. That's where you get new ideas being formed. And so from that perspective, that interaction between people is just absolutely critical. And so encouraging that through the right culture, through leadership that is really open to ensuring that we don't have structures, but we actually have true engagement amongst people. That is something that is really critical to success of any organization, I believe.
And it's so interesting you say that, because it takes me back to a book I wrote. Read a while ago. Called the Bezos Letters. Oh. And these were all of the letters that Jeff Bezos wrote to his stakeholders and shareholders and the way he structured his company culture, he almost knew that we were going to get to a point in time where AI did a lot of the mundane tasks, and he had a policy in his company where when you came into a meeting, everyone needed to attend the meeting in person, and you took the first half an hour to literally sit in the meeting and just read through all of the notes, and then move into that.
I read that book as well.
I mean, we're in such a space of like distraction, and we're in such a space of where like there's so much information and so much is in abundance that maybe it's not about finding balance, maybe it's about looking for a little bit more efficiency, because in that you'll find something and you'll find time to do more of what you enjoy. Absolutely.
No, I absolutely agree.
So Phuthi, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
It's going to I think be a very interesting story to tell, which is I had a look at how the name Google came about.
Oh, okay.
And Google was initially very, very, very far back called Black Rub. Oh. And one of the initial founders said, well, let's to show the extent of how big Google can be, let's name it after something very big, which is a Google, which is essentially something that is 10 to the power of 100. And they then misspelt the word Google
Yeah.
and ended up with something called Google.
Oh.
And that is what we know today as Google. And
Yeah.
we obviously know Google is one of the most impactful companies ever in existence. And there must be something to value of the word or just of a name of a company.
Yeah.
What comes to mind when, you know, I mentioned this incredible story about Google and how the name initially came about?
I think it's my goodness. I didn't even know the story. But I think it's so impactful because it speaks to the history, the culture that comes with naming an organization, because it really just, it speaks to what you're looking at as you move forward as an organization, the origins of that organization.
Their beliefs.
The beliefs, absolutely. And what you hope to achieve, you know. You spoke about the power of 100 for Google, and they did many more numbers than 100.
But Google's always too small for them now.
But it makes me think actually about the name of our company, Process, which is about forward momentum and progressive values. And so, you know, it really speaks to what we are focused on in terms of building our organization with that forward momentum, but ensuring that we have our progressive values as we do so.
And, you know, when I first think of the word progressive values, fortunately, I am a very big enthusiast of Process, as you know.
Yes.
And also just very, very passionate about the company and the organization. And one of the things that come across to me as extremely progressive is, and we spoke briefly about it earlier, which is your company culture of you know, having people interact with people,
the Process way.
Exactly. And tell me a little bit about we spoke earlier about the Process way, but in line with the company's name and how powerful just a single company name can be. Tell me a little bit about the Process way that not many people, or tell me something not many people may know about the Process way.
So, you know, when I think about the Process way, it's incredible how we actually have clear examples of all of our different values. So when I think of entrepreneurship, and I think of all of the founders, and the first founder that comes to mind is our group CEO, Fabrizio Bloisi, who, you know, founded and has created what we know today as the leading food delivery business in Latin America, being iFood. And, you know, the entrepreneurship is really about our culture in our organization, how our culture, you know, how we maintain our culture. And so having that entrepreneurial culture, but then also looking at other values that we have. So when I look at some of the work that we do in sustainability, ensuring that we are impacting the world in a meaningful way. So, you know, sustainability is a core theme of how we run our business as well. But of course, the most important is our people focus, being a people-centric organization, ensuring that we are focused on ensuring that the people that we hire remain enthused and, you know that they are valued in the organization. And hence why it's so important that we have machine colleagues to ensure that they don't need to deal with mundane issues, but that we have machines who can be able to provide us with that AI support for us to make sure that we are providing the best solutions in our businesses.
Focusing on efficiency, not balance.
Absolutely.
And I think that's quite amazing, because in efficiency and in building something more efficient, you naturally find balance. And I do think that in its best form, balance finds itself.
Yes.
And you know, to just talk a little bit more about, you know, the Process way, and fortunately things come to me at odd times, and I think it could be a little bit of the ADD or ADHD. But when we talk about the you know, Process way and the forward momentum, and we talk about momentum. Momentum is a very powerful word. Because it moves into not slowing down. And something that is, you know, when you talk about momentum, it's something that is just so on a set path and on a set vision that it doesn't matter what happens to it, it's never going to break momentum. And my question to you is, in a very large organization, when you look at setting a vision, what are the things that you focus on in setting a very ambitious vision that everyone in an organization can just focus on?
Yeah. I think what's important is that everyone is involved. And so when you look at the leadership of our organization, whether it is irrespective of what you do in the organization, even if you're an intern, you will be involved in what happens in the organization. And therefore, when we look at our vision and our values, and we do so annually, it is something that is important that we all are involved in. And that's the first premise. And then the second one is ensuring that we are bringing in the views of everyone. So we don't have this top-down approach where you have a small team of people who go away, think of something, come back, and distribute it down to everybody.
Yeah, and then they're just supposed to follow it.
Absolutely, but it is something that comes from everybody within the organization, and so that type of environment makes it a more inclusive environment that we have, and I'm very proud to be a part of such an organization.
And I mean, it's incredible just to I think everyone has something to learn about the process way, and a company that can, and I'm going to use the word balance here, but a company that can balance so much of your forward momentum and very progressive values with something that is with a technology that is something that can change the world so much, and it's a big responsibility for a company to obviously carry on. And I mean, I couldn't be sort of more certain about one company understanding the values and the progressiveness to actually take hold of all of that responsibility. The next thing that comes to mind is optimism, and when you talk about progressiveness and very forward-focused company culture, the next word that comes to mind is optimism, and how that a company, or how any human, maybe we can bring this back to humans, how any human has this idea of being optimistic about the future. And I think that more so now than ever, AI allows us to have the ability to be optimistic. When you look at AI and you look at the future of AI, what do you see optimistic, or what makes you optimistic about the future of AI?
What makes me optimistic about the future of AI is that we have the ability to ensure that we are making the right decisions in our businesses, that we are also creating the ability to focus on the right things. Because with the assistance of AI, we're actually able to do a lot more with our time. We can be a lot more productive and have real quality in terms of our engagements, in terms of whatever it is that we do, because we're not spending too much time on things that are too mundane and therefore can take up a lot of our time. And therefore, it is from that perspective, and also looking just at the impact that it has on the rest of the world from a sustainability perspective, that it makes me very, very optimistic about the future of the world when we have AI with us, and particularly as we continue to see things improve even more. It's something that is, I'm very optimistic about where we're going.
That's amazing. Thank you, Phuthi. Let's talk about Sora 2.
Okay.
And earlier this week, approximately 48 hours ago, as of actually recording this podcast, is Sora 2 was released. Now, Sora 2 is essentially a state-of-the-art video generation model where you can literally generate an entire movie with video and sound and effects, and all through a text prompt. And what's amazing about it is that the ability to generate a entire movie has now been made possible by literally inputting text. And that brings up a very interesting conversation, because Sora 2, when I first saw it, and I used to do this quite a lot, where I'd look at something AI generated and then human generated, and I'd immediately know what was AI generated versus what was humanly generated. I'd be able to tell the differences, but I now can't even tell the difference when I look at something generated by Sora 2 and humans, and that gives us a lot to think about creativity. And when you look at these tools, what does that do to creativity for you?
Well, I think that's a fascinating question, because I think when I look at it, certainly it really is about creativity and it's not about tools. And so it's important that we continue to also remember that at the end of the day, it is about the painter as opposed to the paintbrush.
That's a
brilliant
way of putting it.
The painter is the one that has the imagination to come up and the creativity to come up with the artwork.
Yes.
The paintbrush is the tool to achieve that. And so it's important for us as people to remember the difference. And so you and I may both have paintbrushes, but we're going to produce completely different pieces of work.
Exactly.
Right? And so from that perspective, I think we need to remember the importance of creativity, of, also just inherent...
Imagination.
Absolutely, that imagination. Yeah.
And I suppose when you look at a tool like Sora 2, and you look at, I think really soon everyone's going to start using it. That brings up very interesting discussions about maybe everyone's work starting to look the same. And if everyone's using their same imagination, but we're using the same tool, I think everyone's work eventually is going to start looking the same. And that brings up a very interesting conversation in regard to generating this content using this tool. And maybe everyone using it. It's a very good conversation to bring up about how accessible it's made this technology for everyone. You probably come across it quite a lot. What does something like Sora 2 from an accessibility point of view tell you?
It's a fascinating question, Liam, because for me, it's not about just tools, but it is about creativity. It is about the young person in Ghana or Soweto being able to have access to tools with which they can be able to show their creativity. It is about us being able to see more diversity of thought through the tools that we have access to. And so what we need is to ensure that AI is there to amplify the creativity and capability that we have amongst us as people.
I love that word amplify. It means so much because, firstly, it works back to your values, to your progressive values, which is amplification. And if you use the word amplify, it doesn't only sort of amplify the ability for someone to create this a lot easier. It also amplifies people's creativity. When you talk about creativity, tell me a little bit about what stands out. And what I mean by that is when I talk about someone being a creative person, what in your mind constitutes a creative person?
A creative person is someone who has diversity of thought, whether it is in written form, in music, dance, in whatever way. It actually even comes even to science and mathematics. Just having the ability to put across their own way of thinking. When I look back and I think back to the old way in which we were taught, you had to learn things in a particular fashion. And, there's something about allowing a person to be able to actually show their own creativity and bring their own voice. And so the ability for us to ensure that we are encouraging that, and that we have our AI tools who can actually really generate a lot more of that, is something that is so important for us as we move forward.
And I mean, I know from my own usage, and fortunately, I think everyone listening to this podcast has at some point in the last 2 years spoken to some AI tool. Is that at the end of the day, it's just a tool, right? It's just something that's going to help us be creative. I think that when we look at trying to become more creative using AI, that it may be able to generate more ideas, but at the end of the day, it's our imagination that's going to lead us a little bit further. And that leads us into another very interesting topic, which is when we look at this incredible technology, Sora 2, and what it's been able to produce. And if you'd asked me 2 years ago, or not even 2 years ago, maybe 2 months ago, would something like this be possible, I would have said no.
Absolutely.
And that brings into a very interesting conversation about how exponentially quick these technologies are progressing. What is your take on the rapid innovation and the rapid speed of tools like Sora coming into effect, and maybe everyone using it in the same way? When you look at where we started 2 years ago and where we are now, looking back or looking forward, what's the just very first thing that comes to mind?
It really is just incredible. It's changed everything.
It has.
It's changed at how even we as an organization look at talent as well. We've made sure that we have as many people as possible, even, making sure that we can bring in people as interns to come up and be part of our team that is focused on, different AI models that we have in our organization. And so it is something that is just really, really just so, it's exponential, the impact that it has. I mean, I remember when I joined Process 6 years ago, and looking at our division that is focused on coming up with new AI solutions to where we are today.
Yes.
And it is just unbelievable. I mean, it's the heart of our organization. It really is incredible what that team of 1,000 professionals has been able to come up with.
And I mean, it's allowed you to set vision far beyond what you would be able to set, 2-3 years ago. It's changed the way you look at vision, and it's changed the way you look at productivity and efficiency. It really is quite amazing.
Absolutely. Incredible.
Phuthi, we've covered so much. We've spoken about leadership. We've spoken about identity. We've spoken about values, progressive values to be specific. And we've spoken about many different topics that define the way we're going to see and experience the world over the next 10 years. If you could leave all the viewers with one thing over and just one thing that may define leadership over the next decade, what would that one thing be?
I think great leadership will come down to courage. And it really is about the ability for leaders to be able to marry the importance of technology with the importance of leading people in a meaningful way. Really hearing people, seeing people, and valuing people. And so from that perspective, I think the ability for leaders to be able to marry technology with people is what will really propel us forward as we look at the future of AI.
That's amazing. Thank you, Phuthi.
Thank you.